The acquisition of Cardinal Digital Marketing by Power Digital was big news. Cardinal has done a lot of great work in healthcare marketing for a while now. And I think it's safe to say we've all seen the fun and informative social media posts from both Alex and Rich. So when I learned about this acquisition, I wanted to approach this story from the perspective of Power Digital. Why did they jump into healthcare? Why was Cardinal such a good fit for them? And where are they both heading next? Jeff Mason is the CEO at Power Digital, and he graciously agreed to join me on camera to talk about healthcare and their recent acquisition. I asked him how they plan to operate Cardinal and how he foresees that part of their business growing. Plus, you don't want to miss the story of that very first meeting Jason had with Alex. Let's get to it.
Sway ho.
Jeff, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
This is going to be exciting. We love talking about acquisitions and mergers and people coming together. This one's unique because we're taking it only from your side, and we did that on purpose because I want to know why the big leap into healthcare. But before we get there, Jeff, if you could, for the benefit of our audience, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Power Digital.
Sure. Yeah. Listen, Power Digital is a growth operating partner. Our mission is to power the relentless pursuit of growth in order to redefine what's possible. We work with brands across the spectrum, marketing services like paid, organic, AI search is obviously now really big, AI integration services, creative lifestyle, analytics, CRO. We have a big data consultancy and strategy practice called FusePoint. So we help brands unlock growth. But I think what we're really doing is we're helping solve growth problems. And I think when you look at marketing as a service holistically, it's informed and really enabled by everything that surrounds it. Platform, logistics, data, technology, anything that's holding a company back. We like to get into the trenches, solve for those problems, and not just give a strategy deck and walk away. We want to be in it. In 2025, we restructured into 6 vertical divisions: fashion, CPG, core or emerging brands, B2B consumer services, and now healthcare. But we also have a proprietary data platform that fuels our strategy and our AI brain called Nova and Iris. And that really what fuels performance across the brands we work with.
And you're coming to us live from San Diego, is that right?
Yep, live from San Diego, our new corporate office. We just moved in about 3 months ago. We were in Old Town before. For those of you that know San Diego, great part of where San Diego was born. We were there for about 10 years and we decided to upgrade, and now we're at the SD Tech Center sharing a campus with some really big tech giants in San Diego.
Well, it's a testament to your growth that you're able to move. So congratulations on that, and congratulations on your new office. But the reason why we're talking was, a few months ago, we got the announcement that was made of the acquisition of Cardinal Digital Health. Great team of folks. For those of us in the Sway Health community, we've known them for a while. They do great work. But I want to ask you, healthcare was a small part of your business. It certainly wasn't the focus. This was the sole focus of Cardinal Digital Health. Why make the investment in healthcare, and what attracted you to the healthcare industry?
Yeah, sure. First, we are very happy and lucky to welcome the Cardinal family to Power Digital. We couldn't have found a better partner that helped us build the 7th division, which is now our healthcare division at Power Digital. But a few things converged at the same time that made Cardinal very opportunistic. Number one, as you mentioned, Colin, healthcare was already showing up organically in our pipeline. So we had maybe 7 to 10-ish healthcare style clients today. And it sat in our consumer service division alongside education, other regulated services type brands, et cetera. But more importantly, we believe healthcare is at the same inflection point that retail was about a decade ago. But except one difference, healthcare is almost a $5 trillion business or market in the US. And it's an ever growing TAM that grows every single year. And what it is, it's how I define, I would say the inflection point is a growing patient demand that has increasing needs for sophistication, and how organizations market. And that's where retail was 10, 12 years ago. Growing demand, needing sophistication and marketing, and healthcare is a much bigger industry. Almost 1/5 of the US's GDP is healthcare. So we saw it as a recession-proof major market for us to move into, but it required expertise. And I think the leadership team was just unbelievably, obviously perfect for our fit for at Power. But that's the why behind healthcare. We were looking at it for quite some time. We know we wanted to get into it, but you needed to have the expertise. And so Cardinal was the right time, right place.
I mean, there's no doubt healthcare costs are always going up, it appears, and going up astronomically if you talk to certain people. So certainly you're tapping into a great growth area. But what aspect of healthcare? I mean, are you looking to? Because we know Cardinal was focused in a bunch of areas in healthcare. They were on the but are you looking to focus on the like provider side of things, the payer side, pharma, I mean, all of it, any of the above kind of thing? Or are you looking to really kind of hone in on a particular area?
Yeah, listen, Cardinal is really good. MSOs, the provider side, their mission I thought was perfect. It's connecting 10 million patients with the right providers, which really resonated to us because we're trying to connect consumers with the right brands. So it's very tangentially related. But the work they were doing with MSOs and different type of providers was and is very scalable into hospital systems and healthcare, bigger healthcare organizations. I think what they needed and what we're providing them is the data backbone, the technology backbone, the attribution and measurement layer that is increasingly becoming table stakes in healthcare, like it has been in consumer marketing for quite some time. But the strategy of what Cardinal is doing is not going to change, right? They are the best healthcare advertisers on the planet, in my opinion. We don't want to mess with that. We want to continue to invest and surround them with resources to continue on that path. But at the same time, how do we add, bigger healthcare systems into the mix? And I think the combination of Cardinal's expertise, Power's strength in data analytics, measurement, attribution, and surrounding services gives them that capability of expanding into that larger market.
Well, you kind of answered my next question, which was, what does this combination allow each of you to now do that maybe you weren't able to do before? I mean, it sounds like on the expertise side, that's what Power Digital is getting from adding the Cardinal team. There's certainly a knowledge of this very special, in air quotes, industry and all the nuances of it. And then I think you just mentioned that on the Cardinal side, you're giving them or able to now leverage the data side of your house.
Yeah, exactly. And I think from Power's POV, we realize two things, especially as agencies and growth operating partners like Power Digital continue to grow, is that they become generalized, meaning they're not known for anything. A lot of agencies are grown up as a specialized boutique type of agency that is good at really like one thing, which is great. You want that. And that's really what Cardinal is. But as agencies get bigger, like where Power Digital is, they get generalized. And I think that's a massive mistake because what brands really want is number one is they want the best practitioners, somebody that actually knows how to grow a business. But then number two, they want somebody that actually knows your vertical and knows your category. They want the specialization. And so that's why we restructured into vertical divisions and why healthcare was such an important add to that vertical structure is to give us that expertise out of the gate to serve a market the size of healthcare. So it not only adds to the vertical strategy that we have, but also diversifies us. I think the other thing to think about is traditional agencies that serve the consumer product market, their businesses ebb and flow based off the way consumers spend. But healthcare is something that everybody needs every single day, every single second. It's growing regardless of how the economy is performing. It's a necessity. And so we did not want to be held hostage to consumer buying behaviors. And we wanted to grow and diversify. And so healthcare allows us to diversify. And I think it strengthens our overall product. I mean, we want the best practitioners that serves a category. And I think right out of the gate, Cardinal does that for us. And then I think the last thing it does for us is it fuels our M&A momentum. So as we continue to think about how we can expand Power Digital, it's looking at opportunities verticalized. And so I don't think we're going to slow down on healthcare. We're going to continue to look there, but across all the other verticals we have, CPG, fashion, consumer services, eventually breaking out education, et cetera. And Cardinal really allowed us to bolt on their expertise and move very quickly into what otherwise, to your point, Colin, is a very specialized vertical.
Yes, I mean, and it's interesting to hear you say that the healthcare vertical could be, I'll call it a steady foundation for Power Digital. It's certainly not the most glamorous or the biggest spenders of any of the markets you mentioned, but it's steady because the demand is steady, right? So there's always going to be clients who you're going to be who are going to want your help, and so it's nice to hear that because we hear in healthcare that we're not the biggest spenders. We're always 10 years behind, but you're seeing it as, that as an advantage. It's a nice foundation to build on.
Yeah, and if I can add one thing to that, healthcare is so personal and it's so important. And connecting patients with the right providers is a mission in itself. And I'll give you a backstory. So, um, I've been having a hard time finding a new ophthalmologist because I got to make sure it's in my network. I want to make sure it's reputable. I want to make sure that they can handle an eye issue that I have. And I am finding myself having to search for that. But let alone, I get served up ads all the time for new shoes and new hats and new products that I don't need. But I actually need somebody to help me with my eyesight. And it just doesn't exist. And it needs to exist. We need to connect those types of problems that consumers that are looking for the right healthcare provider have every single day. And Cardinal's been on this mission, and it's such a great story to be able to add, but also service to be able to provide to what otherwise is a very needy and for the right reasons consumer base.
Well, you're highlighting two things there. You're highlighting the challenge of search and matching and patient matching,
Yeah.
which, Cardinal did an amazing job solving, and now you will. And you're also highlighting the whole kerfuffle that we have around the lack of retargeting, right? Because we basically had to go cold turkey of that because of the policy changes that happened. So that's why you're not getting those ads that follow you around for potentially an ophthalmologist that you've been searching for. So I kind of find that funny. But I want to go somewhere that you started to go down. You mentioned before that Power Digital has expertise in other areas, CPG, other verticals, and healthcare is, at least in the context of what Cardinal was doing, is very similar, at least on the surface, to what a consumer does in the retail space. Are you seeing some potential of bringing some best practices from that industry, especially since they were 10 years ahead of healthcare, to healthcare?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Obviously, there's further complexities around what you just said on retargeting, patient information, HIPAA, et cetera. And so, why Cardinal was so valuable and why it's filling such a big gap is they've solved for those things. Now, obviously, as regulations continue to evolve, which happens, feels like every other month, and we'll stay ahead of that. But at the same time, I think one of the biggest challenges that I believe we've solved on call it CPG, e-commerce, fashion side of the house is attribution and full funnel measurement. Brands have spent years demanding more accountability for marketing dollars, and healthcare is no different. I think it's evolving to that bigger part of the demand where attribution, LTV, cost per acquisition, channel efficiency is incredibly important. I think the discipline overall, it's forced the development of data infrastructure. And that's what we bring to Cardinal is data analytics, this idea of full funnel measurement and attribution that we can help providers better understand what type of patient that is looking for them and how do we connect them in an efficient way. I think healthcare is asking those questions today, much like retail and e-com has been asking those questions for what seems like a better part of a decade. And we've developed a specialized business called FusePoint. And it's a data analytics and consulting practice. And it's designed to really remove the guesswork from acquisition and LTV and ensuring that we have the right media mix, the right audience, and the right strategy holistically to drive an efficient campaign to connect patients with providers. And so it's things that we can provide to add further sophistication to what otherwise has been predominantly a very brand heavy type of category where, their typical strategy, which isn't the wrong strategy, is to drive more brand awareness. But now we want to collide that with stronger attribution and performance. And I think that's where really a lot of the forward-thinking providers can get ahead and how we can answer the question and help them ring that bell.
Yeah, I think funnel management a few years ago was probably a dirty word in in patient marketing on the patient acquisition side, but attribution is not. And you know, to your point, making sure that you're getting value for your marketing spend, that is what everyone wants, right? So whether you call it funnel management, whether you call it attribution, the point is when I spend $1 in marketing, I want to know that I'm getting something back. What is that? And traditionally, that has not been measured as well or as detailed in the on the healthcare side.
That's exactly right. Yep.
So it's encouraging to hear you say these kinds of words and bringing some of that B2B marketing, some of that funnel stuff that we talk about all the time on the B2B side into the consumer side or the patient side of things. There's an ongoing joke is in, you know, that, hey, when you're in trouble as a marketer in healthcare, you know, the best answer, especially if you're working at a provider, is, you know, just throw up a billboard and then everyone gets off your back because all of a sudden the brand is out there. Everyone's aware of it. It's in your face, right? It's off the side of the highway and it's probably got some great message on it. But what's the attribution of that? At
That's
the
exactly
time,
right.
unknown, right? But it got you the brand awareness. So, um,
Yeah, and that's the problem we want to help solve. And I don't think there's a silver bullet, black and white answer to it. I think it's a discovery process. But if you have the capabilities and you have the chops and you have the expertise across the vertical and the practice, you can accelerate your path to figuring out what that answer is and solving for it.
the meeting, how did this happen? How did you meet Cardinal? Why target Cardinal? Give me the meet cute story.
The meet cute story. Uh, Listen, Alex is a personality, and he's now one of my really good friends. I remember when we first met, it was a banker call, and Alex was being Alex, and my first thought was, who is this wacky founder and CEO? And what's wild is, typically we ask the majority of the questions, and we had an hour meeting. I think he asked 50 minutes worth of questions, and he was interviewing us more than we were interviewing him. And I remember walking out of that meeting thinking, wow, the first 20 minutes I was not overly excited because I didn't know what he was trying to do. And then I realized he was interviewing us to make sure that we were the right fit for what he calls his flock. That's the people of Cardinal. And I really appreciated that approach. And the next meeting we had was in Atlanta, and I got to know Alex more as a person, and I observed how he treats his people and also the talent level of his management team, Lauren and Rich and the rest of those folks. And it really struck a chord that they built something special, not just from a product perspective, but as a culture. And I think what solidified it for me is when I walked into their office for the very first time in Atlanta, very humble office, not very big, but the biggest thing that this was displayed in that office were their core values. And you can take their core values off of their wall and our core values off of our wall and swap them, and you wouldn't know the difference. And that's when I knew we needed to partner with Cardinal. And we've had countless meetings here in San Diego, in Atlanta, countless conversations. And what's wild is, as soon as we came together officially, it was like we've been together since day one. So it was a great story. And the thing is that we've looked at hundreds of opportunities, and that is the most important thing when we consider an acquisition, is the culture fit, the like-mindedness, and it was very obvious that was the case with Cardinal.
You know, it's been a little bit since that acquisition. What has changed? What hasn't changed in terms of the two organizations meshing together? In terms of the way you engage with healthcare clients?
Yeah. So the thesis was very simple with Cardinal. Let Cardinal be Cardinal. They're already great at what they do. They are the experts in healthcare. They are their own division. And so they have complete autonomy to operate as their own division for healthcare. Our goal with Power is to surround them with more capabilities and more resources to help them level up their client base as it is today, go after bigger hospital systems, increase client retention, improve client results. So whatever that is that they need from us that we can help discover together, that's what we're doing for them. But otherwise, their culture, their strategy, their expertise, their motions, we don't want to mess with. We let Cardinal be Cardinal. And I think that was an important part of the thesis that we discussed right up front, is to let them do that. And it's exactly what has transpired over the last, call it 90 days since we've closed. They're continuing to grow very quickly. We're adding services that meet the demand of where some of their clients are today. And we're slowly making our way into what will be the next phase of healthcare advertising together. And we're kind of reinventing, or I should say, inventing that story together, Power and Cardinal.
First of all, thank you for sharing that. I think that'll be very helpful for Cardinal's existing clients and future clients to know that they are operating as they always have, but now under a much broader and umbrella with a lot more resources available to them. But Jeff, I can't help but think, you've been through a lot with the other industries that that you've worked with, and healthcare is a laggard on purpose. We're risk adverse because it is life and death in our industry. So is there something that you've lived through and gone through on those other sides that you are now very excited that you and Cardinal can bring that over to healthcare? And I don't mean like, what do are you excited for growth? Are you excited for the culture fit? I'm just more, hey, like there's this thing that we're going to work on together that just got you really excited for healthcare customers.
Yeah, I think the bar is rising, and the window to get ahead of healthcare advertising, if I'm a provider, I'm a healthcare or hospital system, it is now. I think healthcare marketing is moving from this fragmented brand-led performance-driven mentality to more of a reality. And I think leadership teams are being asked to justify spend, much like retail and e-com were, a decade ago, and what they're currently doing now. And so I think showing patient acquisition costs, demonstrating LTV, which are all things that are challenging to do in this space, are possible. They are absolutely possible. And I think those are problems that we both are very excited to solve for our mutual clients. I think the good news is that providers don't have to figure it out alone. And I think there's very few partners that can actually sit next to a provider and help them better understand how they attack the problem, whether if the solution exists today or not. I think discovering that with a broader breadth of tools, capabilities, data, et cetera, even expertise, obviously will help get them there. And I think Cardinal has developed this level of trust, which is nearly impossible to create unless you've been there, done that, unless you've had those experiences, unless you've actually been in the trenches, with that type of client. And I think we've done the same thing on our side. And so bringing that trust and sitting on the same side of the table is what I'm very excited about, is solving those problems, because that's what at the core we're trying to do as a growth operating partner. It may not be a marketing problem. It could be something else. And I think having that experience and being able to sit on the same side of the table as with the client to solve those problems is what I'm most excited about. And I would say it's what Powers Digital's mission is to help solve those growth problems. And they're not bespoke to consumer brands. They're totally congruent to what healthcare is going through today.
So, Jeff, if I was a marketing executive at a provider organization, a large hospital system, a small, a group practice, a large group practice, whatever it is, what would you arm me with to then be able to go to my executives to say, I need to bring in Power Digital?
Yeah, I think what we'll arm you with is the data to unpack where there are gaps in the strategy and where there's opportunities. And that's both from an acquisition, a cost perspective, a growth perspective. Let us put that together for you. And I think we can arm you with the right story to be able to tell what needs to happen in the order of operations that needs to happen, and why Cardinal and Power are the right partner to help accomplish that mission.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, you shared a ton of great information today with us. Last question for you. Where can people connect with you and learn more about Power Digital?
Yeah, check out our website, powerdigitalmarketing.com. Obviously, you can check out Cardinal's website, cardinaldigitalmarketing.com. We're one and the same, but check us out there.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the program. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Colin. It's a great conversation.
Hey, I really want to thank Jason for being such a good sport and putting up with my questions. And I loved all the insider information he shared. I really liked his examples from other industries like retail and banking. And I know healthcare isn't exactly the same, but I'm actually really encouraged that people like Jason and now the team at Cardinal have access to that wonderful, rich set of knowledge and data on consumer behavior that they've accumulated over years of working in those other industries. I think healthcare can definitely use some of that retail thinking and behavioral science in healthcare. I hope to catch up with Jason and Alex a year from now to learn about the work that they've been able to do together. And hey, if you made it this far in the video, we would really appreciate it if you mash that like button and click subscribe. Also, head on over to Sway Health, that's Sway with 2 A's, .health, where you will find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.